Welcome to And That's When I Realized, the truth and comedy of midlife with me, Susan Dolci.
And me, Leone Dyer. We are two good friends navigating the twists and turns of that middle part of life, and we are laughing our way through it.
Don't get us wrong, it's not all that funny all the time. There's so much we are unprepared for. Adult children, changing bodies, aging parents. We want you to know that you are not alone in these challenges. So sit back, get a front row seat as we share true life stories with a fresh perspective and just a pinch of irreverence. And That's When I Realized starts now.
Hello, welcome to And That's When I Realized. I'm Leone Dyer.
And I'm Susan Dolci.
And this is a show where we're tackling the truth and comedy of midlife. So Susan and I are best friends, and we get together almost every Friday on Zoom to share our week, the joys and the challenges, the laughs, and we discuss all those things that friends share. I don't know about you, but we thought by the time we got to our mid-50s, we would have life figured out. But as it turns out, there's a whole lot we didn't expect. Like today's show, the topic of today's show, we are discussing Tony Robbins' new book, Life Force: How New Breakthrough in Precision Medicine Can Transform the Quality of Your Life and Those You Love. So grab a cup of coffee, glass of iced tea, or whatever you want to drink, and join us for the first ever Bestie's Book Club. Yeah. Yeah.
This was an idea when we were formatting the show, like when we were just kind of coming up with the concept. And I said, I think it would be fun to have a book club, sort of thing a few times a year. Because I just remember like the whole Oprah book club thing. And
Yeah.
not that we, so I can't, this one was my idea. It's Tony Robbins'
Yeah.
book. And because it does address so many things about aging and lifespan, a term he uses called health span. And I'm going to be totally transparent here. And that's that I am not a Tony Robbins. I was a Tony Robbins fan back in the day, like when he, was kind of just new on the scene. And I loved his energy. I liked what he had to say. But then as time went on, I just found him more and more annoying for me, like, as a personality.
Well,
like,
he has a lot of energy.
He has a lot of energy. And there was a time where it felt like he had a lot of ego too. And maybe he did. And maybe now that he's 62 or 63, that has calmed down. But so how I found this book was, I'm a huge fan of Marie Forleo. And she interviewed him. I guess they have done workshops together, like week-long workshops where you go and got all these speakers. And so she interviewed him about this book, and I was fascinated by the information that he was covering on the cutting edge medicine that hopefully will become available to everybody. And that's kind of why I think there's two reasons he wrote this book. One is because he's invested in a lot of these companies that he's talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
But also because he can afford these, he has the ability to have these experimental treatments. And his hope is that he can bring a lot of this to the public, and that as it gets more and more normal, that the price will go down like it does in anything.
With anything. Yeah. I hope so. Yeah. It would not have been a book I would have picked up, to be honest. I might have listened to YouTube videos or, watched him in an interview. It would not have been my first pick. That being said, I highly recommend everyone get it. I would. I think the information that is in here is in the book is informative. I think we need to know this. And I will say, I'm not a big science person. So when they go into like, there's a whole section where your eyes kind of glaze over and you're like, really? And I kind of remember reading this and then thinking back when I took driver's ed at like 15, 16, and sitting in that classroom with, that was when they brought the screen, and it was in that like tube. Do you remember that? The teachers would bring it in and they would set the easel up and the screen would come up. Do you remember? Okay.
I didn't have that. We had simulators. We had like little video game simulators.
No. My driver's ed teacher, Mr. Briggs, who has passed many years, a long time ago. I can now talk about him. No, he would be asleep at his desk and we would be watching movies. And we would be watching movies on how to change the oil in your car, or the science and the math of why you do not tailgate someone in rainy weather. So there was a lot of, rather than just saying, this is the law, do this, they give you everything. They lay out why, and they show you what happens, like how fast how much time you need to slow down your car by the speed you're going. So there's math and there's science and there's all this other stuff that I didn't care about. However, when I got my license, and maybe when I was an adult, I would be driving on the highway, it would be raining, and it would flash in, oh yeah, that's right. I need to, not do I just need to slow down? I kind of had the depth of this stored back in my mind somewhere. It would come in. And that's what this book is. Like go through it, read it, because there's so much information that when we get to that part in we are, Susan, we're at that part in our life where we need to really start thinking about our future and what it's going to look like. Some of the information in here, it's hard to read through. I mean, it's not hard to read. No. It's just, for me, science is not my thing.
So, he's got a lot of information packed in this book.
It's
lot.
What,
800, how many pages?
Oh, well, really? 690, 691.
Okay. Including like all the studies and all the index and all
everything. Yeah.
And it's like, when I got it, I was like, Leone, I'm like, it's like Bible pages.
Yes. And I was really scared. It's like, is it an audiobook? No. And the great thing is he has things highlighted already for you. So it's like, if you just read the highlighted parts, but I recommend it. It does feel a little like an infomercial in some parts, but it just overlook that. It's okay. I mean, it's good.
It definitely has his energetic symbol, like his vibe all over it. And it's written very conversationally. And I think in retrospect now, I realize, I think why he bolds so much of it is in the beginning, he talks about how he in his youth became a speed reader because he was so voracious to get as much information as possible. So I think being a speed reader, if all you have to do is read the bold parts, if you really
exactly. Exactly. And if you happen to be, if there are a lot of bold parts that you're reading, like, wow, this is really good, then go back and read the finer print. But no, I was at first in the book, I just was like, I don't think this is really, I don't know. Does this pertain to me? And then somewhere like on, I don't know, page 10, I'm like, oh crap. Yeah, here we are. I need to know this. I do, and my kids. And
if you just want a recap, if you just kind of want to see what it's about before you actually buy it, if you go to Marie Forleo, Marie TV, you'll see on YouTube, you'll see the interview. And basically the entire interview is sort of a recap of the prologue or the preface, or like the whole first part of the book that kind of says how he got to this part and all of his personal journey with illness and chronic inflammation and injuries. And so it really does set up the story to understand why he's so psyched about this stuff.
Yeah.
Because his body takes a beating. He has a tumor on his pituitary gland, which is why it caused him to grow like 10 inches in 1 year when he was in high school. I can't imagine how painful that had to be. But so he has had all of these challenges, and because he is wealthy and well known, and he has access to technologies and modalities that most people don't have, he's really, I feel his passion in this. I really feel like he wants to help as many people as possible.
100%. And he says that when he was in his 20s, his biggest fear was the C word, that either he was going to get it or someone he loved. And that did happen. Someone that was close to him got cancer, and he started researching. And so from there, I mean, he still kind of cared, like, oh, I'm going to get this cancer. I'm going to get cancer. So it's always been and I think everyone, I mean, if a lot of people, I mean, I had it. So, I wear that C on my forehead, and I was blindsided by getting that diagnosis, but I know so many people who are so afraid of getting that cancer. And so he was out there already looking, how can we like skirt around this? How can we live through cancer? And so I think even at an early age of 20, it wasn't like in his 20s that happened. Yeah. He had this desire to think outside the box of how the normal, like the average Joe thinks of the medical industry. And so at the age of 20, I mean, yeah, phenomenal.
And it's a fascinating story, because the person who, it was his girlfriend's mother at the time. I can't recall what kind of cancer she had, but she was able to reverse it. She was
it was a mass on her shoulder or her back or something.
And I think, and so if that alone, like every time I read, every time I come across like I would dare say like a miraculous sudden remission or the shrinking of a tumor, that always catches my attention as to, what are they eating? What are they drinking? What are they doing to make this happen? So
exactly. And this book is filled with examples of people who, through the therapies that we'll talk about when we come back, but they're true examples of these miracle or these, miraculous recoveries of whatever they have. Yeah.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what aging really means, both biologically and mentally. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's the difference between a health span and a lifespan. I love that. I love this part. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to And That's When I Realized, and we'll be back in a little bit. Hey, welcome back. You're listening to And That's When I Realized. And today, Leone and I are talking about, we're doing the Besties book club. This will be a two-part series. We're going to do another show on Tony Robbins' book, Life Force, on our next show, because then we're going to be a little bit more specific, targeting women's health specifically. And just FYI, he did not write those chapters. Women wrote those chapters. So it was like, he's like, I'm not equipped to be able to do that. But it's an amazing book. And the reason I was fired up about it is because it really does. So he has this concept of, we all know what a lifespan is, right? We know that, it's the number of years should maybe live given our lifestyle or whatever, but he has this concept of a health span. And what that is, so it's like you could live to be like, what is the example he used was like the car, right? Like you can keep replacing the parts in your car.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
Until you basically have a new car, and the car's still running great, right?
But it's still your car. It's still your car. It's still your body, right?
And so
we
that's
can-
kind of his concept of what he, that's sort of the underlying thing of all of this, is that how can we not only live our best, healthiest lives, but with these new modalities in medicine, how can we repair the broken parts so that we can live longer, but in full, vibrant lives, not declining? Because like when I think about aging, I was like, I don't want to live past 80. Like that sounds awful.
Right.
Like that's just because my vision of 80 is what all the 80s that I've known, right?
Yeah.
And that just doesn't look like fun.
Well,
And
he talks a lot about the difference between your biological age and your chronicle age. And so there is a difference. So he is, I think, is he like 62, but his chronological age is something in his early 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember having that test done a while ago, and I was about at my age.
No, I think it's the other way around. I think it's is it?
No, your
Chronicle?
biological is your actual age.
Okay.
But I can look it up real quick. I've got the number, I think. But
Well, no, yeah. Go on. So you had that done. You had that looked at.
And I was about whatever, I don't remember. It was like my late 40s, early 50s. And that was where I came out. But
this makes my husband crazy because we have a fancy scale that like does like your water and your skeletal muscle and your fat and your visceral fat and all that. And one of the last one is your, I think you're right, is your biological age. And so I just turned 58 and my biological age is 54. And he is 53. He'll be 54 in a few weeks. And his biological age was 54. So his was a year older than he was. And mine wasn't. He was like, this is not right. This scale is not right. Sorry, babe. I don't know. That's what the numbers say.
Right.
But, and I just recently had speaking of interesting, I'm going to get the name of the thing wrong. Oh, crud. I should have written it down. Anyway, it's a machine like that where you like hold the handlebars and you get on it. It's sort of like my scale, but fancier. And it gives you all of these readings. And it's fascinating, the technology that we have out there. Yeah. So what is the difference? I'm going to read what you wrote here. What is the difference in connections between your chronological age and your biological age? So what about mental health? Yeah.
I mean, we can eat, we can exercise, we can eat great, but we all are energy. We're made up of energy. We know that. But if we have a low energy, it actually drops our lifespan, which floored me. I know a lot of old people who are really negative. So, and so the reason is because our emotions, so the energy that we have with that emotion it filters through our cells. We are so complex.
Well, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So if even if we're eating great, even if you're getting in your 10,000, 15,000 steps a day, you're eating a perfect, amazing diet, but you hate your life or you hate your job or you're watching the news right now. Whatever. It's lowering, it's because it's going through. And unless you can process that and have a healthy understanding of it and not bring it in and have a negative, then your cells are carrying that negative energy, which will tarnish them.
One of the quotes I took out of the book, because I think this also, I find this interesting and how it relates to the work that we do, but it says emotions can rule the physical body. One study showed that 1 5-minute angry outburst can impair your immune system for up to 5 hours.
Yeah.
And
So,
but here's the thing. We like when we work with clients and stuff, we're like, you need to process the emotions. Like there's healthy ways to process it. Like, don't pretend you're not angry. So I find this really interesting because maybe it's 5 hours, but like what happens if you don't process it? Like if you don't have the angry outburst and you stuff it all down, I mean, that's got to wreak havoc with your immune system more than having a 5-minute spiel.
you meaning stuffing it down in?
Well,
and
yeah,
not-
like I think it would be better to have an angry outburst
Oh,
and
yeah.
and have your immune system knocked out for 5 hours, or not
Oh,
knocked out, but
yeah.
versus
I mean, this is
stuffing it in.
And Susan, we could probably have, show number 3 just about this. I mean, I believe totally, if I, on my gravestone, if I have one, is the number one thing is to be true to yourself. And to be true to yourself is whatever you came in, whatever was, like whoever you were, that soul, whoever you were, that's who you need to be. And we just keep adding these layers of crap all, to cover up whatever pain we're in. And we lose our true self, which is exactly what you're talking about. I mean, the other night, I'll admit, the other night I got mad at Dan. So rather than, having a fight or, or just being kind of, whiny to him, I walked around and pretended nothing was wrong, but there was. I mean, he could tell because he kept saying, "You okay?" "Yep, I'm fine."
I'm fine.
"Yep,
I'm
don't
fine.
talk to me. I'm going to bed. Good night." And I'd stomp up. I didn't stomp, but and so I was keeping that in. The next morning I got up and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I'm mad at him. Yeah, I'm not going to talk to him. That's right." Still there. It's still there. Rather than just be like, "What's happening? Come on, really?" Processing, so that maybe it would have been a confrontation for 10 minutes, over, done. But instead we walk around and I think of my parents a lot and they just like stuff so much inside. And it's, I mean, from their past, they're much better now, but they are so, my mom is like, "Nope, just smile. Everything's good. Everything's good." And, we joke that, she'd be missing an arm. "Nope, it's good." And so I think I'm hoping that generations and the work that you're doing, Susan, that we are able to teach our kids, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to be who you need to be, who you are. And maybe they'll live as long as they're supposed to live.
So basically what it really gets down to is it's still a lot about mindset.
Oh.
Like how you envision what being like aging looks like, which is why I said, for me, I was like, "Oh gosh, I don't want to live past 80 because in my head that looks awful," but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be awful if I'm taking care of myself and I'm taking care of my brain, exercising my brain, exercising my body, eating right,
Mhm.
trying to sleep right.
Oh, sleep is right. Yeah.
We're gonna do a whole separate show, not about Tony Robbins' book, but we're gonna talk about sleep because this is a problem. Anyway, we are coming up on a break, but I want you to tell me why you posted in the notes TB12.
Well, first of all, Susan didn't know who TB12 was. And Susan and I are like best friends. We know everything about each other. Tom Brady my husband loves Tom Brady. My husband's not a really big football fan, except he loves Tom Brady. And Tom Brady is, he's like 42. He's the oldest quarterback. And he's still in like amazing, great shape. But he also works at it. He doesn't take the steroids. He works at it. He's so disciplined in his life. And he also, it's a physical and a mental. I'm not going to say spiritual because I don't know, but pretty close. And so he is, I mean, when you look at him and then watching him as a young quarterback. So like in 2000, I think it was 2000, he started playing for the Patriots first time on as a quarterback. You see pictures of him then and pictures of him when he just finished his last, I guess it's his last year. We're in mourning. He announced he was retiring. So he looks so much better now than he did when he was, what, 24, 22, whatever age he was then. So you think, so Dan and I are like, well, avocado ice cream. Okay.
Well, I mean, but the science, the science is there to help these athletes, which is what a lot of what's in this book is.
Yes.
These protocols to help these professional athletes get to that shape that, and how it used to be harder. And now they've got all sorts of machines that can help get that done. We are going to take another break.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back, we are going to talk about what actually causes aging. I think this is fascinating because it's not what I expected. You're listening to, and that's when I realized, and we'll be back in a little bit. Welcome back. We are talking, excuse me, about Tony Robbins' book, Life Force. We're doing our Besties book club, me and Leone, and hopefully we'll do some more of these in the future. Maybe fiction, maybe, maybe something, maybe some literature. Anyway, so one of the things he talks about in this book that I was fascinated, and there's so many doctors that have contributed to this book coming together. He kind of fills in the gaps, and it's mostly written by, gosh, at least a dozen, if not more, doctors. And so I apologize that I don't know the doctor's name, but they state in this book that aging results from lost or distorted information. So what that means is like there's a breakdown in communication between cells.
Yeah.
Right? You say the source of our later woes in life is a breakdown in cellular communication and regulation.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Right. So we're born with like the perfect, well, most are born with this perfect instruction manual on how to live and how our cells restore and how our body functions. And then through life, or, just through everything we do, we start losing that communication. And that is the aging process.
And actually, that's also cancer? Right? Kind of.
Well,
isn't it like cellular misfiring, misinformation? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but what I think is so fascinating about what you said is like our bodies know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, like what the lifespan of, let's just say the Middle Ages was like 45, right? Nobody lived past, to be in your 40s was old. And that as we age, we have more and more of this breakdown in communication. What I'm curious about is if that was the lifespan age back in the 1200s or whatever, we live longer now, but we have poisoned food, poisoned water,
toxins,
poisoned air, more toxins, more pollutants.
So
we still live to be a longer. I'm sure that a lot of that has a lot to do with medicine, and so anyway,
we solved the mystery of bacteria, and because now we have penicillin, we have antibodies or antibiotics to treat our bodies. So if you were cut or something happened, they didn't have tetanus shots. You died of infection. And so that was probably more so than toxins at that point. And so now we figured that out. So now we've moved in and that is that's how Tony Robbins, I'm going to put a son on his name, Tony Robbins. He had mercury poison. Mm-hmm. And he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was doing the right thing by eating fish. And that's the only protein he ate was fish a few times. I don't know how many times a week, but
No, he was like, the way he said it, it sounded like exclusively tuna and swordfish, which apparently
Okay.
are the highest in mercury levels.
And he got incredibly sick. So it was the toxins in his body that was causing him to, really have, his mental clarity was off, his stamina was off. And for him, that was a red flag.
Yeah.
Because of, yeah.
So
And
one of the, okay, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Because one of the things I talk about, and I really wanted to, this book is so rich in conversation, so many things to address. But so Leone and I were questioning, so a lot of these medical technologies sort of like, when you read the book, sort of feel like they're like the fountain of youth. Like you get these, talks about all of these different stem cell therapies, and not just cancer treatment, stem cell therapies, but joint issues. And I actually, I had two friends in Cincinnati, both had a stem cell knee replacement thing. One worked for one woman and it didn't work for the other woman. And it's just like, this is still very experimental, and it's expensive.
Yeah, this
It
is not
for the average person. And I don't even know if her insurance covered it, because it was like a 2-shot thing. So I, as much as I love the idea of all of these things, coming into the mainstream and being affordable, I am a little skeptical and concerned about what it means as far as like trying to chase the fountain of youth.
Well, I think, right. Is it going to be the elite that are able to do that? And then everyone else, dies at 80 or 90 or 95 or whatever. Yeah. I think he does talk a lot in his book, and I'm not going to advertise his company that he's invested in, but they do have where they say that it's very, you can join this online medical records organization, and I think you can get tested.
It's concierge medicine, which is not new.
Yes.
He just has all of these new modalities.
Yes.
That he is invested in. But I believe he's invested in it for all the right reasons besides financial. I think he really wants this stuff to become mainstream. But concierge medicine has been around a while, and it has been a concern of mine that, I want everybody to have healthcare. Like, I'm so, Obamacare, ACA, whatever you want to call it, that everybody has access to it, which is also still not cheap now that I've got a daughter about to turn 26 and has to get off our insurance and doing all that research. But that, like you said, these are still going to be available to the rich and famous, and not the average person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you can get into a case study or a test study, then that's fantastic. But that being said, one of the things that he recommends is everyone should have 2 tests done. One is
tests. You're right. I thought you were
no. Okay. No, I'm going to say 2 tests. I'm going to go there. And one is a test on toxins, the toxins that are in your system, and the other is a hormone test. And so the toxins, just recently, we had our water tested. We live in this amazing, like, for anyone who knows where I live, I mean, our water is wet, not a spring. Oh my gosh. It's an artesian well. It's 500 feet in the ground. You would think, like, what's toxic? But we had because several of our neighbors had their wells tested, and they had a very high level of radon, which is, they just have to vent it out. It's in the water, but it's also like it can be in the air. So we had our water tested. Our radon is, for whatever reason, it's not incredibly low, but it's safe. However, we have a very high percentage of uranium.
I know, when you told me that, I was like, what?
Oh, like we are like so far. So we have.
How are you not glowing? Like,
well, I usually do glow quite well, but no. So we had to actually I mean, I never would have thought that, like where we live. I mean, and I'm not going to say the name, there is a very large water company that pumps a lot of water out of probably the same reservoir that we tap into ourselves. And they bottle it and they send it out across the Northeast, or I don't even know how far. And so you would think, why, and it's tested. So that is, the toxins. So what is it doing to your bodies? What is it doing to my body, my husband's, get tested. So those tests, though, are readily available. Having a hormone test and the toxin test, heavy metals, anyone can, and I think so do that. Forget about all the other fancy stuff right now. Just do that and go from there.
Well, and then the question, what leads from that? I mean, the hormone, I think, is that we've come a long way there, but like from there with hormone replacement therapy, and he has a whole chapter on peptides alone, which is fascinating. But what do you like, okay, so you get your metals tested and you're high in aluminum or mercury or whatever. Now it's like, now what the hell do I do? What am I supposed to do? Because like my concern is, everything I've read about dementia and Alzheimer's being related to heavy metals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much damage has been done like that. So it also will lead us to another thing we want to talk about, which is like, how much do we want to know when?
Right.
We'll get there, but it's like, now it's Pandora's box.
Exactly. Well, and that's what I kept, right. I feel like we have opened Pandora's box because we want to know this information, but do we really want to know this information? And now that we know it, how do we get it? And can we get it? And
We're coming up on another break, which I think we're gonna go just a tad early, because I do want to talk about that, about diagnostics and all these tests that they have and these machines that they have to tell you what's all going wrong in your body. I don't want to know. Okay, we're going to take another break. We're listening to And That's When I Realized, and we'll be back in a little bit. We are back. We are talking about Tony Robbins' book, Life Force, today. It's our first ever Besties book club. And before the break, we were talking about diagnostics and how, well, one of the quotes of the book is, with the ability to pre-screen or have an early diagnosis of our health, we are in the driver's seat. And I think about all of these, the screenings that we can do now. So like, yes, heavy metals, hormones. I believe all of that is great. I should probably have a bone density scan. Really don't want to know that, but I probably should, because I'm a petite woman. My mom had osteopenia. She, had fractures, not hips or anything like that, thank goodness. But so I know that's something I should do. But it's, again, like, it's once you have this information, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to pretend it's not there, or are you going to make changes, right? And the reason I'm reticent is because before I had my third child, I went to the doctor. I thought I should maybe have a physical before we try and get pregnant again. And I'd had this weird rash, this petechiae rash that they couldn't figure out. So she sent me to hematologist. No, first I went to the dermatologist. That was biopsied, blah, blah, blah. Hematologist might have leukemia. Then she also said I had a heart murmur. So then I had to go all these heart scans. And so a year later, after countless doctor visits and tests, having nuclear dye pumped into my body so they could see my heartbeat, they're like, yeah, well, there's really nothing we can do. I was like, okay, well, so what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to get like an echo every year. So then I had mitral valve prolapse, which is, like a stretching of the mitral valve. And it was mostly due to pregnancy. You have increased blood flow. And so they all got stretched out of shape, just like other things when you're pregnant. And so I went back another year. I went to a different location for my echo because I really didn't like my cardiologist. And they did the echo and they're like, we really don't see anything wrong. Like your heart seems to be fine. Everything's beating the way it's supposed to. I was like, so it just fixed itself? Like, but I went through so many tests. And I mean, so I had that echo after I had my third child. And everything was fine. But when you have like mitral valve prolapse, you have to be like on antibiotics before every dental appointment. Like it's a thing. To find out that, maybe if my cardiologist would have said, maybe if you, up your cardio workout or whatever, to strengthen your heart, then it'll heal. But maybe he's not at liberty to say that because but I don't know. So I guess my thing is I am on the fence about how much I want to know is wrong with me.
Well, I get that. I mean, I think if there's something like, if there is something truly wrong with you, if you're having an issue and there is an issue, then yes, I think get all the facts or as much as you can. But that being said, right, we're telling everyone, go get your heavy metals test done. Do you, but you can do something with that. You can get a water filter. Just a water filter, even if you don't do, you don't go to the fancy stem replacement, or you can do the water filter. And I think knowing yourself too, like how far do you really want to go?
Well, and so one of the things he talks about too, it really starts out the book, is getting second opinions, and how there's a percentage that's quite scary, not scary, but it was like 12%, 12% of the time. Is that right? I know, I thought I put it in here. Anyway, that your second opinion is so drastically different from your first opinion.
Oh, yes.
And you have a whole, thank goodness for your intuition and a second opinion, right?
So, yeah. And like, I'm going to go really short because we're going to be ending soon. But one day I was at work and my whole left side of my face went numb. And they thought I was having a stroke. And so I was not. And so there were moments where I couldn't feel my face and like my lip. I looked like I was having a stroke. And then it became incredibly painful, where sometimes it hurt to blink. And they told me I had atypical, which means they don't, they just don't know how to. So they're putting me in a box. I didn't fit into trigeminal neuralgia exactly. So they're putting me into a different box called atypical. And they're telling me that's what I have.
There was a delay. What was the diagnosis again? Atypical.
Oh,
what?
I'm sorry. Atypical trigeminal neuralgia.
Okay.
Which is
That's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. However, when I'm reading through all the description, I just knew, my gut told me I didn't have that. So we went to a neurologist. I was put on an anti-seizure medicine. And I was like, I don't have seizures. I'm like, no, but this will help. It will do the same thing. And we're going to need a kidney, we're going to need a kidney function before you go on it, so then we can monitor your kidneys. I'm like, what? So as we're leaving, I threw the script away. I was not doing it. I would rather live in pain than to do that. And my gut was telling me, this is not what you have. So I lived this way for 6 months. I mean, there were times that I would go to work, I would teach, I would come home. I had small kids. This was before my cancer. And I would crawl into bed. I could not, lights hurt. I couldn't blink. And then there were great days. It was fine. Long story short, I had a pinched nerve in the back of my neck. I would have gone. And so many people that I talked with, so many people were like, you better go down medicine. There could be something horrible.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and get a second opinion. Even if you believe what is happening, get a second opinion. Second opinions are, to me, that's the key to empowering yourself on how you're going to heal or how you're going to restore yourself or to live.
So how did you find out it was a pinched nerve?
Thank goodness for Dan. Dan started researching, found a doctor. So this was like the early 2000. And he found a doctor that was a pain management doctor. We went to Mass General. We met with him, and he had an intern working with him. And so the intern had to interview me, then the doctor did. And according to how I was moving my body, like when they would talk to me, they were like, yeah, that's a pinched nerve. And plus, the nerves that are in my head, and yeah. And so he told me to go home. He gave me a nice little script that said to have a glass of wine every night and get a massage and get some Reiki and everything. And I'm like,
that's the kind of prescription.
Yeah. And it was a pinched nerve. So, yeah.
There is so much we did not cover today in this book. There's a whole, so much on stem cells. And when I first started reading it, I was like thinking about all of the ethical parts of stem cells, which is really just because they need, anyway, I'm not going to get into it. We can probably touch on it on our next show because we're going to do this one more time, but we want to focus on what he has to say about women's health and vitality. There's also some on beauty, some guidelines on keeping your youthful appearance.
Yeah.
So sticky note. We have a sticky note for today.
Sticky note. If I had known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. Ubi Blake. Love it.
Well, and that's the thing. So we've got like a minute, but I always joke around because my husband wants to live to be 108. I read that number specifically because he wants to see the tricentennial. And I'm like, yeah, you go, babe. Yeah, I won't be there to help you. First of all, I'm 4 years older than he is. So that would have to be 112. That does not sound good. But if what they talk about in this book is actually real, and we can, keep sort of replacing the parts on the car and keeping, our bodies strong and healthy, and by taking care of ourselves, then maybe we'll, go to Philadelphia for the tricentennial.
Yeah. Well, and just to end the show, our ending line is exactly it falls into place with this book.
And that is the age is just the number of years the world has been enjoying you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope you guys will join us again. Maybe you'll pick up the book and read it. And we're about midway through it, and hope you like the Besties Book Club.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for being here with us today on And That's When I Realized. We are here to shed some light on the misconceptions around midlife by sharing real-life stories and a fresh perspective.
Look, we know it's not easy, but change is constant and inevitable. Let's explore what it means to move through challenges with a dose of humor and embrace each challenge, each new discovery with a higher sense of understanding. We hope you heard something today that made you laugh and recognize the truth and comedy of midlife. See you next time.